In this video, we're going to show you a really basic technique to pour your own concrete slab for a home or a cabin. The cabin you see right now, that's the actual slab that we do in the video here. Basic, I think like a 16 by 24 cabin. That's a different one we did, but it's the same dimensions as far as the slab and whatnot. We did these in the same area. Just basically a group of 3 or 4 guys that we had help us. You can do it, I mean, you could technically do it with one person. It's a lot easier if you have, say, 3 or 4, but try to have 2 at a minimum. So there's the basic area where the slab would be poured. So we leveled it off. We dug out kind of a footer around the exterior, and then we used those boards as form boards and drove rebar stakes into the ground and also piled some dirt against it. There's an interior look. You can see along the edges, it's down basically to the bottom of the board, and if you look toward the middle, the earth is mounded up because there's no reason to have an 8-inch thick slab throughout the entire cabin, but you do want to go thick around the edges, obviously, because that's where most of the weight will be. So there's another look at it there. We did compact it a little bit. Basically, the compaction we did by hand. The area we leveled, we had a piece of equipment out there, but it could have been done by hand, but if you have a skid loader at least, that's great. There's the edges there. So there's just another look at it. If you go to have a contractor do the slab, you'll get wildly different bids. To have a pro come in and do a slab like this could have been, you know, anywhere from $4,000 or $5,000 to maybe as high as $10,000 or more, depending on what they do with it, what you're going to build on it. There's the concrete truck. People always ask us, well, you know, we live on an easement road. Can we get a concrete truck in here? The concrete drivers, within reason, will do what you want them to. So there we just had them back right up. And they've got the chutes that they can put on the back of their truck. And they can get concrete in some pretty wild spots. So there, they're just letting it rip out of there. The guys have, well, basically what's called concrete rakes, and they're roughly raking that concrete into place. A couple things that we didn't do on this, which we certainly could have, but these were small cabins, so we didn't. We didn't do any type of vapor barrier, and we didn't do a full wire mesh. What the guys actually did, and although you don't see it in the video or in the pictures here, is after the concrete was poured, but before it was leveled, they did drop dozens of rebar sticks into place. It's kind of an old school way to do it. It's not as good as doing a wire mesh or having the rebar wired together beforehand. But I mean, if you're looking at a quick and easy way to do it, this has served us really well. This was close to 20 years ago, 15, 20 years ago that we did this. And that cabin is still standing in perfect shape. So there they've got it leveled out. They're using a screed board, which is just a straight 2x4. And you get one guy on each end, and you saw that back and forth, and it rides on top of the form boards, and that's how you roughly level out the concrete. So when that screed board is sawed back and forth, just a basic sawing motion, it'll knock down the high spots, and you'll be able to see any low spots. And you just take a shovel, throw a little concrete into the extra low spots, and go from there. They've done no smoothing yet. The screed board will get it to a rough surface like that. And then once all the concrete has been poured and screeded, that's when they'll actually use the bull float. And you'll see that in a minute or two here, and that's going to give it a fairly smooth surface. So really no specialty tools required other than the bull float, which we haven't seen yet. You can rent a bull float. You can buy one. I think they're about $100 because they have a fancy magnesium non-stick head. But oftentimes, if you talk to the concrete company, they may have one that they'll rent to you super cheaply while you're doing the pour there. You can see the guys are just guiding the chute back and forth. The concrete drivers, I mean, we've had dozens of them over the years, and almost every one of them they're willing to work with you to move the truck where you want it, to get the chute where you want it. Rarely are they in a big rush to get out of there. They want you to get a good product so that you'll order from that company again. They want to help you out. Okay, so now we've got all the concrete roughed in, and he started on the left with the bull float. You can see those 2 smooth parts. All he's doing is pushing that float to the end. You rotate the handle, and that pivots the head, and then you pull it back towards you. And that's what he's doing there. Also holding it up in the air. So when he's pulling it back toward him, the leading edge is in the air, and the trailing edge is doing the smoothing. And just with the bull float, that's going to get it reasonably smooth. I mean, more than smooth enough, especially if you're covering the concrete. But after the bull float, I'm not sure if we're going to show it here or not. You let the concrete set for a while, and then you can go over it with hand trowels, which will get it super, super smooth. Along the edges where the form boards are, you'll want to use an edging tool. One reason is cosmetics, but another one is that if you leave that sharp edge, it's a lot more prone to cracking. And the chalk line there so they can keep everything straight. And also, I think the purpose for that chalk line was once it sets up a little more, they put the control joints in there, which is a tool similar to an edger. And all these tools, these edgers and these tools for putting in the control joints, I mean, to buy them new at Home Depot, you're looking at $5 or $10 each, so not a big expense. It's that bull float that is spendy, and so unless you're going to do half a dozen slabs, you might as well just rent a bull float for $20. That rough area you see toward us here, that's going to be the porch. So all they've done there is they've taken a normal sweeping broom right there. Actually, that's not a normal sweeping broom. That's a different type of broom, but they've wet down the bristles, and they're slowly dragging that across. And that's what I'm seeing now. That's what the chalk line was for, to delineate between the living area and the porch area. So they wanted, since the porch will be partially exposed to the elements and it will get wet, we wanted to do that kind of non-skid surface, and that's where that broom, super simple and basically free way to do it. So this picture doesn't show that they've gone over it with the trowels yet. And depending on what you're going to do, if you've edged it and you put in a couple control joints, you might not need to trowel it, but it's pretty easy if you do. So you can check out another video to see how that's done. So that's a finished product. That's extremely similar to the slab they just did. Same size. I mean, the slab, it just takes a couple hours. Once the concrete truck is out there, you'll have 1 or maybe 2 loads of concrete, and that's that. That photo is showing the roof for some reason, but real basic little simple cabins. The entire cabins took about a week to build with a crew of 3 or 4 guys. And there's the one where the actual slab was. I mean, that was just a ton of fun to get out there and do it. The landscaping was easy. Very few building codes and covenants where we did this in the Missouri Ozarks, so that made it super cool and just created a beautiful little day cabin. Could also be used year-round, but in this case it was a super simple day cabin. The entire cost of everything was quite minimal. But yeah, subscribe to our channel. We'll try to bring you some more videos. Really cool, simple ways to build your own home or cabin.